What is up, and I welcome each and every one of you back to a brand new video. I hope you're all having fantastic days, and if not, I hope I can make your day just a little bit better. Today we're going to be looking at the top 10 missing civs in Civ 6 or Civilization 6. Now, this really does depend on what you view as a missing civ. Obviously, not everyone is going to like what I have over here. However, I feel like these civs did so much throughout history that at the very least they should get a mention. Now, I'm not going to be talking about anything too controversial, I don't think. I'm going to be mainly focusing on civilizations that really went through a long period of time of being a big player on the world stage. So, for example, the Germans that were in control of the 1940s, they were big for sure, but they were only around for like 10 years at most, and that would be pretty controversial, so that is another reason why I'm not putting them on. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started with number one, the Umayyad Caliphate. Now, you guys might be saying, oh, but we already have Arabia. Not really. It's Saladin, and their capital is Egypt, or Cairo, so I really wouldn't call them an Arab type of civ. Saladin was Kurdish, and Cairo is a city in Egypt. I'm talking about a full-on Arabian civ. Now, I'm going to be talking about some ideas for each civ about what they could be good at, what they could specialize in, so for the Umayyads, for example, they could be a faith and domination civ. So, unlike Arabia and unlike Babylon, who would pretty much have a similar idea, they would have a unique cavalry and a unique swordsman unit. They would be mainly focused on combat over the medieval and early Renaissance or classical eras, around that time frame. So maybe they could have a unique swordsman unit or man-at-arms unit, and then they could have a unique courser or a unique light cavalry unit, like, for example, not cavalry, but maybe courser or horseman. Their bonus would be to get extra combat strength against enemy religions, and every time you take an enemy city, that city automatically converts to your religion. I feel like that would sort of be unique enough where it's not really too close to Spain or Babylon, and it would be sort of representative of what happened during the past. So that's what I have for the Umayyads in number 10. Now, before we continue, if you have enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Definitely helps me out a ton. And let's continue going with number 2. We have the Hittites. Now, a lot of ancient, super ancient era civs really are not included in Civ 6. The only one really is going to be the Babylonians, I guess, but even then, they would be more of like Neo-Babylonians that we have. I'm talking about like the Assyrians, the Huns, the Hittites. So we got the Hittites right here. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Hittites were pretty much famous for inventing sort of a stronger form of iron during history. They had very, very strong iron early on, and that did allow them to carve out an empire for themselves in their golden age. So what I'm thinking for the Hittites is they are a sort of blow your load and go type of civ. They get iron working, they get the swordsman and they get iron after they research the mining technology. Like, they get swordsmen pretty much after the mining technology, and their bonuses would all be focused towards early game combat. Like, their unique ability would be getting early game swords and iron. They would also get the encampment, an extra great general point for their encampment, so they could get great generals earlier, and they would also get battering rams early on in bronze working. Their abilities would all revolve around getting earlier versions of these techs you can get later on in the game, like swordsmen and mining, battering rams at bronze working, encampments giving extra great general points, so you can focus on getting swordsmen, going out to a massive early lead, but after that, you're done. You have absolutely no bonuses, so pretty much an early blow your load and go type of civ. We don't really have that in the game. The closest one, I think, would be maybe the Assyrians, or not the Assyrians, sorry, the Gilgamesh and the Sumerians, really the only ancient era civ. But I mean, aside from the war carts, the ziggurat is very powerful, and their abilities can, obviously with alliances, stretch out the entire game. The Hittites would mainly be a domination civ to pretty much, hey, we're going to go to war, we're going to destroy you in the first 50 turns, but after that, we got nothing left. Pretty much just like Civ 5 Huns. That's pretty much the Hittites at number 2. Number 3, we have the Inuits. That is right, we are going Mr. Worldwide pretty much with this list. Now, the Inuit, I think, would be a very, very special case. They'd be the one civ that would want to settle on snow tiles. I'm not talking about tundra tiles, I'm talking about snow. They'd have like a unique ability to give them culture and food during the snow. I'm sort of basing this around the Civ 5 Inuit mod, which is one of my favorite civ mods in the entire series pretty much. They get food and culture from snow tiles. They'd be able to build a unique tile improvement around those tiles. They'd be able to get bonuses towards fishing resources. They would actually be able to have fishing resources on land tiles, if that makes any sense, because they do have the history of the Inuits. They have like those circles, like Club Penguin, where you just fish in like that ice circle or something. We give that to the Inuits, and yeah, pretty much just make them focus on a turtle type of civ, kind of like Canada in a way, but instead they'd be focusing on like growing really, really big cities in the snow, and I feel like that could be fun and unique. So that's the Inuits at number 3. Number 4, we got Carthage, not Phoenicia, Carthage. Carthage would be led by Hannibal. I know he's a great general. That's fine. He could do both. And he would focus on domination and trade. Now, what I mean by this is trade routes to city-states provide extra gold and extra culture and science, for example. And then they would have a unique elephant unit. And then they would also have a unique ability that would allow them to levy city-state units for cheaper and for less gold. And they don't have to be suzerain of the city-state to levy their units. That would be very, very, very cool. Like, imagine you're at war with Hannibal. You know, you have nobody, like, you have city-states that are allied with him nearby. Then all of a sudden he is able to levy their units and just use them even though he's not suzerain of them. I feel like that would play well with Carthage's history, pretty much, levying city-state units and stuff like that, levying mercenaries. And then Hannibal himself could be like, by the time you enter the classical era and you build your first unique elephant, you get the unique general Hannibal. It's going to be one unique general, Hannibal. He works throughout the classical and medieval eras, and he'd be giving like 2 movement speed and like 10 combat strength. He'd be like really, really damn strong. But after the medieval era ends and you get to the Renaissance era score wise, he would pretty much just disappear from the entire game. I feel like that would be also really good, allowing you for sort of a longer term domination with focused on the classical and medieval eras. That's pretty much Carthage. We have it number 4. Before we continue, let me know down below which civs you think are missing from Civ 6. And even, hey, what is your wish list for Civ 7? What civs do you want to see added that were not added in Civilization 6? Let me know down below in the comments. Without further ado, let's move on to the city-state of Prussia. Yes. Now, I know they sort of share kind of the Holy Roman Empire type of thing, but I feel like Prussia could be a very, very unique civilization. I wouldn't exactly call them Germany, even though they are sort of the predecessor of modern-day Germany. Well, not modern-day. They're the predecessor of, I would guess, World War I Germany. But I feel like they're different enough from the Holy Roman Empire and Germany to warrant their own inclusion. Their focus would be mid-game militarism, right? They'd be like Renaissance, Industrial Era. They'd be focused on domination through there. I don't know what their unique unit would be. I'm not really familiar with the lore on Prussian history. But they'd pretty much get extra combat strength when fighting bigger enemies and multiple enemies. Like if the enemy has more cities than you would get a combat strength bonus. If they have more units than you, then you get more combat strength. If you're fighting multiple enemies at once, you would have a stronger combat strength bonus. Sort of like in the 7 Years' War, pretty much. Maybe you'd get 3 combat strength from like a smaller military, less cities, and multiple enemies. This would be also sort of unique, right? Like, how would you play as Prussia? Because if you get snowballing later on in the game, you pretty much would not be able to get these bonuses because you'd have a bigger military, you would have more cities, and you would have bigger and multiple enemies. I feel like there would be a way to fix that by adding a puppeting mechanic. I'll leave that for my video I'm going to make on different mechanics that I would like to see added in Civ 6. Let me know what you guys would feel about a video like that. But Prussia would pretty much be focused on mid-game militarism and fighting stronger enemies and winning. Let's move on to number 6, I think it is. 4 or 5. This is actually number 7. We have the Iroquois. Now, the Iroquois, despite how atrociously bad they were in Civ 5, they were so bad in Civ 5, they make Georgia look S tier. That isn't even a joke. Let me rant on Civ 5 Iroquois for a second. The unique workshop replacement was literally worse than the original workshop replacement 90% of the time. The unique trade route ability that gave them free tiles literally is still to this day bugged and doesn't work properly. They have a unique swordsman unit, pretty much one of the worst unique units in Civ 5, the swordsman unit. That was not really special at all. It got combat bonus in forest terrain pretty much. They had like such a cool mechanic and such a cool leader animation scene, but their Civ was literally worse than a replacement level Civ. Like I would rather have a Civ that's neutral, does absolutely nothing than the Iroquois. If I had like one game for my life, gun to my head, you either get to pick the Iroquois or you get to pick no bonuses, a neutral Civ. Give me the neutral Civ. I want a working workshop, and I don't want to be, promised a trade route ability without it actually working. But the Iroquois, I think they do deserve redemption, and their focuses will be mainly diplomatic related, just like the Iroquois Confederation. Now, their unique ability, it would be something special, right? Every city aside from your capital is automatically on automated building. They would build whatever the AI would say they would build. Now you might be saying, wow, that is pretty bad. I'm not even done yet. They also cannot use late game strategic resources. They cannot use oil, they cannot use aluminum, and they cannot use uranium. Now you might be thinking, man, you really must work for Firaxis because you really are putting the Iroquois all the way down in the ground. No, because they would have such a massive diplomatic favor boost. They would have diplomatic favor for every civilization they've met, an extra for every open borders, an extra for every embassy. They get so much diplomatic favor. They can't use niter either, by the way. And the other thing would be when a civ declares war on the Iroquois, they would get a automatic war wariness negativity based on the era you're in. For example, the medieval era, you would get maybe -1 amenity per city. Renaissance era, you would get -2 when declaring war on the Iroquois. Every era, you would get an extra amenity per city decreased to the point where it would get that the Iroquois would be like a focused solely on diplomatic and no domination bonuses whatsoever. However, they do have some sort of defense late game when they can't make use of anything like infantry or tanks or planes or anything like that. I feel like that would be pretty interesting, but that is the Iroquois at number 7. Is it 7? How many civs do I even have? My God. Then I guess we'll move on to the next one. We got Austria. Austria, you might be thinking Hungary sort of fits in the need for Austria, but I have something unique for Austria. It would be an alternate civ, not an alternate leader, an alternate civ to Hungary, right? And its unique ability would be sort of like Civ 5, where you could do a royal marriage with city-states and like have their board, like get them into the empire and have their units, have their stuff, have all that stuff, and all like royal married city-states would get an extra bonus towards production, science, and all those yields. And then we can also have it where Austria cannot settle any cities. You can only get extra cities from either barbarian encampments, royal marriages, or getting sort of royal marriages to enemy cities. Like instead of like enemy cities, right? There would be an enemy city right on your border. If it is close enough, you could go ahead, get your unique unit, which would be sort of a unique spy type unit. We'd call it like the diplomat or something. And he would go and he would sort of work on schmoozing like in Civ 5, the diplomat we had in Civ 5. But instead, the diplomat would be able to, after a certain number of time, convert the enemy city to your empire. So that, again, that's sort of like a mix between Civ 5 Venice, Civ 5 Austria, and sort of just making like Civ 6 diplomacy and city-states work and make it sort of an alternate to Hungary. They would still have the Hussar, they would still have the Black Army, and they would have still all like they'd have like all those abilities. And yeah, I think that would be pretty cool for Austria. After that, we are at number 8. We got Italy/Venice. Now, I know we have the Roman Empire, but you have to be smoking that good shit if you think that the Roman Empire and Renaissance era Italy are the same. The Renaissance was started in Italy and /Venice, I guess you could say. So maybe having a Venice/Italian civ where they'd focus on like Renaissance era culture and have great people points boosted for like every theater square district you have. Like if you have a amphitheater, you'd get 1 to every great person point. If you had a museum, you get 2 to every great person point, even an archaeological museum. And then maybe they could also have double slots for great works of writing, artistry, and musicians. And every time you recruit a Renaissance or medieval or industrial era great writer, artist, musician, you get 2 of the same person, which I think would be pretty damn neat. That's pretty much all I have for Italy and Venice. Just make them focus on mid-game culture. And yeah, I don't think any of the civs are stronger than any new Frontier Pass civs, in my opinion. I feel like I've balanced it pretty well. Firaxis should hire me, I think. But now let's go to the penultimate civ we're going to talk about today. We are looking at the Huns. Now, the Huns were so fun to play in Civ 5. They were the definition of 5 seconds or less. They would be good for maybe 10 turns at the most, and then they'd be absolute trash. The amount of effectiveness you'd be is how likely you were to get a Spearman upgrade from an ancient ruin, which would allow you to get the battering ram. I think keeping the same units is really good as the Huns. You know, maybe have the horse archer, and then you would have the battering ram, right? The battering ram would replace the spearman as always, and it would get massive bonuses towards enemy cities. And then the Hunnic archer would have 2 range, and it could move after attacking. So it could like pretty much Civ 5 Keshiks in a way, move in, attack, and then move back out. Have super duper strong early game bonuses, sort of like the Hittites, but instead where the Hittites would focus on swordsmen, the Huns would focus on being sort of an early game Civ 5 or Civ 6 type of Mongolian Mongolia, and I do think it would be a really good, really fun, really good idea to have the Huns earlier on in the game. Now, for the last Civ, it might cause some sort of controversy, but I think they were so powerful and so strong during the early modern era, right after World War II, that they do sort of deserve this place. Also, if you're talking about some sort of human atrocities or stuff like that, I feel like the Soviet Union, by the way, if you haven't guessed what it was, I feel like the Soviet Union really wasn't, it was still pretty bad, you know, I don't want to be like the guy who stops clapping after like a half hour of clapping straight, you know, I just get sent to the gulag or some shit, but I still feel like the Soviet Union was just so effective. They were a superpower, pretty much matching the United States until about the 1970s or 80s, but yeah, their unique ability would be focused on production, science, and pretty much late game militarism. So what they would have is early game, they would have a production bonus per extra population they have. They'd have a science bonus per extra population they had. So like the taller you could get your cities, the more science and production you would naturally get from those. And the other thing would be they have no amenity requirements, because again, you complain in the Soviet Union, you're not going to be alive to complain for much longer. Let's just say that. I feel like that'd be unique. Have them remove like the amenity requirements for the special civilization, and then like have them so that they want massive, super duper massive cities, but also have it so that every unit they create requires one population. Have it so that their units are 50% cheaper, but every unit you build requires maybe even 2 to 3 population once you get to the lake. Have their population requirement be the maintenance cost requirement. So archers would require 1 population, warriors would require 0 population, but late game a giant death robot would require like 9 population. So have it so like you have to choose, right? You can grow cities really tall, but you have to choose between science and production or military. And obviously you would have the T-34 as a unique tank unit. You would also get no war weariness from dead units because, again, you don't have amenities, and anybody who complains in the Soviet Union either gets sent to the gulag or gets sent to straight heaven or hell. It's up to you. And the other thing would be infantry. Late game infantry. They'd have a unique infantry unit that would be weaker, but it would also be 50% cheaper. So we're talking about you could pump out infantry with conjunction with your unique ability every 2 to 3 turns. However, it would be like 60 or 55 combat strength or something like that. And finally, just maybe give them a unique building to give them like massive production. Although I don't think that would work too well because they already have massive production from their population. So again, they would be sort of a production and science powerhouse that could only really be effective by getting tall cities. But if you have to go to war with somebody, then you do have to sort of sacrifice that tallness, which is, again, sacrificing science and production. And, yeah, I mean, you'd be lying if you said you didn't want to see the Soviet Union go democracy or fascism in your games. We all want to see it. But yeah, that's pretty much my 10 or potentially even 11 civs that I think should be added in Civ 6 that are missing from Civ 6. So obviously Firaxis is watching this video, like they pretty much watch and ask me for what they should do. So we are going to get a new frontier pass, and hopefully they will be able to add these civilizations. In any case, if you have enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps me out a ton. We're trying to get to 10K and hopefully bigger than Mr. Beast by the end of the month. And I'd appreciate all the help I can get. Let me know down which civs you would like to see, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.